Thank you, Lev.
Thank you. Thank you, Kiki. Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me here. It's great to see you all. And I like what Kiki was offering about the building of community. So I'd like you to take a moment and whether your screen is on or off, just take a, and I'll introduce myself in a moment. But like, I like to look at who's present and just acknowledging that with everything that's happening in the world and that's in our lives, like we all made it here. And I feel like that's some life intention thing that had that happen. Just taking a look around, and if you have the energy, you might offer just appreciation for other people showing up since you all create this space. And then if you have a little bit more, we can just send out, like, radiate some compassion out, knowing that on some level, we're suffering from something, right? Me, a little too much caffeine before I started. So just like acknowledging, right, our humanity. So my name is Lev. My pronouns are he, they, and love. Love is a 24/7 practice for me, and I'm very intentional about it. So I've added it as a way of being, and I believe that's who we all are and who I am. I'm based in the Huichin territory, which is the land of the Ohlone people, in an area often or commonly known as Oakland, California. Originally from New York, and um, and I can't actually remember the name of the tribe. I haven't been there in a while. Um, and I was raised out of the East Bay Meditation Center, and I went to Spirit Rock for training, so I've been through CDL, the Community Dharma Leadership Program, dedicated practitioner. And in addition to Big Bear, the next retreat will be, I think, my fourth offering at Big Bear. You can find me at Damadena or Southern Dharma on the East Coast and various other places around. My focus, I have this focus on self-compassion. I took Kristen Neff's teacher training program on mindful self-compassion, and I believe that through self-compassion is how we heal ourselves and the planet. And I particularly believe it happens at a faster rate. So I'm in big support of supporting all of us in both in self-compassion and in compassionate community. And today we'll talk a little bit about, and I'm doing this because I'm a little bit of a on the spot teacher leader, but I'm going to talk a little bit about courage, wise understanding, and our power. So I realized when Kiki introduced me that I only have an hour, but I will make it work and hopefully interestingly enough or inspiring enough that you will have some questions. Um, and unless you have anything you need to say or do right now, I thought we'd do our practice and we'll practice for the next 20, 25 minutes. Does that sound good? And what I like to offer, I don't know everybody here obviously, is about 15 minutes in, I might just say a little something softly to call us back. So just so nobody's surprised, that'll happen. So let's begin to settle. Begin by just noticing I've slowed down, my speech is slowed. There's a little space between the speech. And as it's accessible to you, noticing the sensations in your body. Some of you coming from somewhere, maybe some of you awakening in this moment from rest, just noticing. And as you're exhaling, see if you can allow your body to release itself to the hug of the planet, releasing your shoulders and upper back, allowing your elbows to fall towards the ground. Perhaps with this next exhale, what can you let go of? Something you can't do about or don't need in this moment. You might notice the sensations in your legs and feet, if they're accessible, and meeting everything with kindness. Numbness, pain, neutral, energy, meeting it with kindness. And perhaps from the top of our head, releasing the energy in our scalp or any tension in our scalp or forehead, letting go of the tiny muscles, your eyes, your brow, your nostril, releasing your jaw, mouth, chin. And in this moment, noticing the cadence of your breath, fullness or not of your breath. You don't have to do anything. We might notice if it's stuck somewhere, if you're breathing fully or fast. Just notice. Again, meeting that with kindness. There might be tingling or sensations in your hands. Noticing the rising and falling of your belly. And if you can, you might pull up some energy from the earth and remember wherever you are, we're on the planet. And just pull that up and into your heart space to just simply notice what's there. Even if you can't attend to it, noticing, being aware. During this practice, you can always put your hand on your heart and or belly if that's comforting. You might also choose hearing or feeling the sensations in your body. Anything that allows you to stay in this moment now. Gently coming back to your point of attraction. Before we come back together, let's take a moment to honor ourselves for participating in this practice, remembering there is no perfect practice. The perfection is in the showing up. Just being kind to yourself for that. And if and only if you have any kindness to spare, just sending out wise, kind energy or kind thoughts to the other people helping to create this experience. May they also be kind to themselves with their practice. And remembering to come back to yourself. This beautiful commitment, this beautiful practice, this beautiful act of self-care. May the fruit of your practice benefit your self-love and your loving connection to others. Thank you for your practice and presence. And feel free to stretch. Stretch, feel free to stand, taking a moment to look away from the screen. I'm smiling because I'm thinking about how, it's been 5 years that we've been doing this. Um, I don't know. In some ways, it's still always new. So I'll share. All right, thanks for being here, Lauren. I'll share a little bit of my thoughts and save some times for us to do a little sharing. And I'm coming to this with the hope of supporting your self-care, your self-compassion, because you deserve it, number one, and because how we show up impacts the people around us. And start with some focus on courage and wise understanding, thinking about how there's so much happening, and I didn't bring it into this talk, but I think boundaries will show up in some way, and the importance of that. So I'll begin by sharing a quote from Maya Angelou that says, "Courage is the most important of all virtues. Without courage, you can't practice any other virtue consistently. You can't be consistently kind, generous, loving, compassionate, or honest." Right understanding, states Jack Kornfield, starts by acknowledging the suffering and difficulties in the world around us, as well as in our own lives. Then it asks us to touch what we really value inside, to find what we really care about, and to use that as a basis of our spiritual practice. When we see that things are not quite right in the world and in ourselves, we also become aware of another responsibility, of the potential for us to open to greater loving kindness and a deep intuitive wisdom. And then just adding to that, courage is not the absence of fear, but how we respond in the face of fear. Gil Fronsdale from up here, up north here, Redwood City. Gil Fronsdale offers right view or right understanding is the beginning of the Eightfold Path. When the Buddha described the path of practice, he started with right view and right understanding. It is right there at the beginning of Buddhism, and in a sense, all of Buddhism arises from right understanding. It is something that all the different schools of Buddhism and all different practices have in common in the fundamental and simple way that the Buddha offered it. And then that's the end of that quote. And because of our own traumas and ingrained egoic ideas, it takes courage for us to choose to even see or understand things clearly. It takes courage to go beyond what we believe is right and accept that there may be a different truth. Fear arises in so many of us, and we have no experience processing fear. And this is just coming out of what I'm witnessing in my communities, which vary quite. I have a lot of various communities. Unprocessed fear, says Tara Brach, turns to aggression. When fear is not faced, when fear is not faced, it has us create more separation. And I don't know about you, but I can see that almost everywhere, and especially from political parties or political perspectives. There's this resistance to another's perspective for me that shows a lack of courage to face that we may be wrong, and that our fear, there's this fear of being compassionate for the other person's experience because we think it can make us unsteady, right? Somehow make us weak. And therefore, as Tarbach stated, we can respond violently, whether it's verbally, physically, or emotionally, and in order to like maintain our view. And of course, we can't find these perspectives. I'm sorry. And of course, we can find these perspectives anywhere, the ones that we don't agree with. And we might begin with just looking into our own hearts. I was thinking how the Eightfold Path is sort of like our magic carpet, and courage might be the if you've ever seen like I remember watching Sinbad when I was a kid, but if you've seen like more recent magic carpets, like there's little engines on the back or an engine on the back, and that's sort of like that's courage to be able to walk this path. I don't believe consistency is kind. So as frequently and as committed as possible. Everybody's seeking to be loved. Everybody's seeking to be understood. Everybody's seeking to be safe. And we'll see if these work. But I've got a couple of stories that very quick that experiences that I want to share. I went canvassing for the first time, and I was in Utah, and I don't know if I was in the right part of town, but um, I remember at one point I knocked on this door, and this guy had to be like, he was like 6'5", 250, 300. He was probably 300 pounds, and he comes out very sternly, very, what do you want kind of thing. And I met him with kindness. I was like, oh, I'm here to drop off these flyers, and then he stepped towards me, and there was this way I was able to just stay soft, and that softness comes from the practice of having compassion for others, knowing that whatever was going on for him, it really didn't have to do anything with me personally, and it helps that I'm a person of size. Um, and it was really interesting because I was like, can I give you these? He's like, no, I don't want those. And but then he turned away, and I said, "Have a great, evening." And he like really softly said, "And you do too." It was sort of like, um, sort of meeting the wall with rubber, I guess you can say. And then there was this other guy who I put a flyer on his door, and I saw his kid, and I said hi to his kid, and these are both white guys, and this guy came like out the street chasing after me, and he was screaming, "You're not supposed to be on my property, blah blah blah." And and I just looked at him and said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disrespect your place. And he's still yelling, but then he looks in my eyes and he gently hands me the paper. And then he's going walking back like yelling still because I know he wants to um, protect his son from what he believes is not true or not real or something. I don't know. Alice Walker says that the most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. And I've found power in being compassionate and loving. And we all have power in different ways, intellect. Um, and I feel like it's sort of our responsibility uh, to use the power that we have for the greater good, or I'm not going to say the greater good because that's different for all of us, but for the loving experience in our hearts, the love that we are, this gift that we have. How do we? It's one of the ways we honor it. Is one way we honor life is to be our full, authentic selves, which I believe is ultimately loving, even if we've had challenges experiencing love. I was go on to say. The thing about bullies, for example, is not their strength, right? I know so many people who have lost friends since 2020. Certainly, during what was right to do during COVID was an experience that caused divorce, right? So separating families and friendships, and then Black Lives Matter, and that kind of blew things up for a lot of people. Who caused more separation. Um, and then, of course, October 7th, bringing more um, people's fear that they're not addressed, and bringing more aggression. And the thing about bullies is that they're looking for someone who they believe is weak, like these guys above, someone who is weak or has a lower social status. And when we can stand in our truth, you might find, or I've found, that it's often not as threatening as I might think it would be. It can definitely cause distance. There are people that, I don't connect to anymore. But when I stand in my truth, which is this, that I'm like cultivating this loving and compassionate being, um, people turn away, and they might turn away angry. But there's this way that it works as a shield. I think the other way I was thinking about the eightfold path is also like it's almost like a body armor, because we're inside of this truth that nobody can deny. They may not want to appreciate, they may not believe it themselves. It may cause them fear, but when we're in our true selves, when we're in our true practice, um, you know, many of us are called by different parts of the many practices, but whatever that is, when we bring in compassion and the Eightfold Path, there's something that's really solid about it. And there's something about it that shows us our power. And so many people are feeling powerless right now. So many people. My communities, including Black and people of color, trans and gender expansive, certainly females of every gender identity, um, many men who are challenged with expressing the fullness of who they are as well. So many people in fear and not aware of the power that we have. Um, and I think that our power comes from our practice. Our power comes from our connection to anything that you might believe in that's beyond you or around you. Um, and obviously from spiritual community. Um, I didn't go there exactly, but one of the things that inspired me to talk about what I'm talking about is I was up during a service on Sunday night where the questions came up about what is greater, to study or action, which is greater. And we had a great discussion about it, because, as you can imagine, some people are like action, and other people are like, well, you got to study what you're, if you study, like everything will be okay. And there's this wise place, right? There's this wise place where it's not like we gain wise understanding and then we sit back, right? Or we just work the Eightfold Path, but there is action in there. And what is wise action? Um, it's really sad to witness people using wise speech as a bypass for not speaking truth. Um, but I said I'd leave you time, so I better wrap up. Uh, Patti Smith has a song, "People Have the Power," and there's a version of it with a whole choir. I don't remember who they are, but um, and within it, she says, "People have the power to redeem the work of fools, whatever that means for you." But it will take all of us to create what I dare say is let's say not create, but it'll take us together to like continue to open, expand, and walk on this Buddhist path, this Buddhist journey, this mindfulness path and journey, wherever you're going to. And let's see, I think that's the last thing I'll say is also having conversations around privilege. And I really encourage you to take breaks when you can take breaks. That part of this experience called life means that we're also supposed to engage in joy. You've probably heard Khalil Gibran's how the sorrow and the joy feed each other. And if you're not engaging, allowing for the grieving, right, we do that, but we do a little bit too much of that. We also have to take the opportunity to create joy. I had a beautiful conversation with, or opportunity to speak to a Palestinian named Um, I can never remember his name. Sorry, but I did speak to a Palestinian last winter about Jews celebrating and dancing during the high holidays, and his perspective was like, yes, please, understanding the replenishment, understanding that with that maybe some hearts can open, right? And and his partner, who's an Israeli, was sort of like just talking about how beautiful and magical it is when we can come together in our suffering, um, and find places where we can meet, that can encourage joy, that can encourage change and movement and togetherness and understanding, belonging, respect. So I'll stop there. I usually talk a little longer. I think I left a few minutes, and hopefully something touched you in that brief share, that brief kind of, yeah. And you can't be shy, so the extroverts have to come out. Thank you, Stephanie. The extroverts, if you have any questions, you have to. Thank you, Galia. Nice name. Shuli. Okay.
Looks like Raphael raised their hand.
Oh, Raphael, please.
Thank you, Lev, and thank you all. Everything touched. It's amazing, amazing share, my friend.
Mhm.
Appreciate it. I really love I mean, there's so much you said that just touched my heart really good. Uh, there's no perfect practice. The perfection is in showing up, and that right there
Mhm.
was a great reminder. But you said something at the end that I would like if you can elaborate just a little more on the
Mhm.
uh, I wrote it down here. Why speech without speaking truth? Is that what you said?
Yeah. I've had people use wise speech as an excuse for not speaking their truth. So there's a time when we have to say something that's hard, um, and we do so with compassion. Especially if we know somebody's harming somebody or something's, not right. You know, if I'm like constantly forgetting to set the pilot light when I turn the gas on, you can talk about me so that you can come together and fix that. But we don't want to use wise, I don't want to speak against that because it's wise speech. It can become a bypass. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. And I like your Phoenix.
Thank you, Dev. I appreciate you, man. Pre
Thank you. Right on.
Maybe I'll see you in Big Bear. Okay.
Maybe I'll see you, Big Bear. You come in, get some self love.
So
Hi,
thanks.
Isra.
Hi, thank you so much for beautiful guidance and everyone here, the experience. I wanted to express gratitude for um, what I'm hearing in today, one of the themes of both and, like room of both and the dialectic, especially as it comes to compassion for communities. And I appreciate your referencing, communities seen as in opposition or in spaces of
Mm-hmm.
warfare. And that, what's painful for me in connection, personally connected to some of that, is when only like one group suffering gets acknowledged. And
Mm-hmm.
it can feel very isolating. And what I really appreciate about Sangha and Buddhist teaching as well is that um, while I'm in a multiplicity of spiritual, paths and groups, but like I really appreciate the compassion for all is really like there. Like we can have compassion for every living being, and I really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to be held in that and have that underscored, and also reminds me of another dialectic in, I think from Talmud, like every person should walk around the world with a piece of paper in each pocket. And one says, for me, the world was created, and the other says, I am but dust and ashes.
Mm.
Another dialectic, like we must have compassion for ourselves, as you're reminding us, and the humility it's and be for others. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I wish I could go on. You also inspired me, right? Wise understanding about why we're not talking about the genocide in Sudan as much as we're talking about what's going on in Palestine, right? So, wisdom, right? The taking the having the courage to just know these things. We can't always do something about it, but we have to acknowledge it, and like as a beginning, what's happening at our borders. We have to acknowledge the suffering. So, thank you. I'll pause there. Thanks for bringing the Talmud in.
We have time for one more question, I think.
Oh, cool. Hi, Susan.
Hi. Hi. Just a quick, I don't know if you have a quick answer, but a quick question is thank you, first of all, for a lovely meditation and talk and teaching. What do you advise is the best way to practice self-compassion?
Hmm. Are you familiar with the self-compassion phrases?
The
There's
metta, you mean? The
Yeah,
metta?
like, well, yeah, there's metta, right? And then we have the loving kindness, and then we have compassion phrases as well. And I can't share them with you right now, but you can Google the compassion phrases. I don't know where she went.
Okay.
Oh, there you are. You can Google compassion. So what we're doing is just like with the metta, the album, we're rewriting the script. And it's going to take whether it's one every day that you do throughout the day, or you put a message in your phone and the alarm comes in and it says, "May I be kind to myself," repeatedly, but it will help reset. So that's just a great place to start.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you for
welcome. Thanks for
wonderful
asking
info.
that question.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
All right, I'm popping in here, Lev.
Thank you.
Having
Are we doing merit first or after? We can do
Oh,
it after.
merit first, merit
Merit
first.
first.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, everyone. Whew, that's a quickie. I just came from some retreats, so as you can imagine, doing an hour is like, oh, that's fast. So let's just take a moment to settle in. There's so much that I did say and others shared, and we might begin right now. May I be kind to myself in this moment. You can understand that what is meant to be remembered will be remembered. And may the merit of this practice benefit all beings everywhere without exception. May they choose to be compassionate, loving, peaceful, and yeah, may they be kind and live with ease. Thank you so much.